Listen, here's the recipe for the universe. The main ingredient of the universe is dark energy, which consists of either the cosmological constant or the quantum field known as quintessence. The other ingredients are dark matter, composed of exotic elementary particles, ordinary matter, both non-luminous and visual, and a trace amount of radiation. Listen with me. Projection makes perception. The world you see is what you gave it, nothing more than that. But though it is no more than that, it is not less. Therefore, to you, it is important. It's the witness to your state of mind, the outside picture of an inward condition. As a man thinketh, so does he perceive. Therefore, seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. Perception is a result and not a cause, and that is why order of difficulty in the miracle of conversion is meaningless. Everything looked upon with vision is healed and holy. Nothing perceived without it means anything. And where there is no meaning, there is chaos. Damnation is your judgment on yourself, and this you will project upon the world. See it as damned, and all you see is what you did to hurt the Son of God. If you behold disaster and catastrophe, you tried to crucify him. If you see holiness and hope, you join the will of God to set him free. There is no choice that lies between these two decisions, and you will see the witnesses to your choice that you make. Can you see that? And learn from this to recognize which one that you choose. So you're going to make the decision. And I've come into this frame of reference and hologram of an idea about yourself to help, perhaps, you decide the outcome that you want in the reflection of light, in the necessity for you to recognize your relationship with yourself. Okay, I was out wandering around in here, meeting galactically all sorts of new identities based on the repetition in which they are performing in the ritual of converting the darkness to the light of them without the necessity to define what the relationship of the darkness is. Can you see this with me? That is, no matter what procedure I utilize in the idea, say to me, I'm going to be me.
I'm going to be me.
Yes, I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to talk to you about it. Okay? And the manner in which I've decided to talk to you about it is very simply to let you apply within your mind, okay, the activity that you are already utilizing in order to verify reflections of light within the angles of resistance. Some of you are saying, what's going on with this guy? Those of you who were fortunate, perhaps, in seeing the idea that the science of your mind says very simply, okay, that no matter how far you look out into the universe, you're going to end up within the circle, right back where you started. Well, it's one thing to say that. It's quite another for you to understand that what we just offered you was a relationship of an idea that you are already in possession of in the manner of your thinking process. Thinking process. Process of thinking. Process of thinking. Process of thinking. That no matter how I get reflections, there always seems to be another element there that doesn't quite fit in with the realization of mine. How can I perform this? I'm going to take, with your permission, in the idea that you perhaps have seen now, the idea that it's necessary for us to allow ourselves to be constantly converted from the idea of the darkness of our self-identity to the particulars of reflection of light that I just saw you flash at me, to be followed almost immediately by a protective device that you imply for fear that you'll actually be revealed for a moment in your entirety. Because as we remind you in the idea that the universe is waiting for you, you keep returning in this circle of the particulars of the time in order to protect yourself in all of the degrees and angles of how you're appearing to yourself in that reflection. Now, the purpose of the remaining 21 minutes on this video is nothing but to convert the agency of the reflection of a hologram of your light that is giving you distinct images of ideas about yourself and how you look, with the provision that the loose solution, the new solution that I am offering you is connected to the, say to me, thoughts.
Thoughts.
Yeah, the thoughts you're having. And if we just read to you the truth of the matter, are only followed by reflections of light in which you pertain what you are within that arrangement. Now, the 20 minutes that I have left are going to be directed to ideas of harmony of light in what you term prayers or holograms of light or factors of deep meditation in which you're going to enclose yourself momentarily like that. Then the idea. Say to me, it's not out there.
It's not out there.
No, it's not out there. Fundamentally, the prayers that you're utilizing now are admission in the mind training that the faculty you intend to use will be a faculty wherein the expansion of you is occurring. Listen, admittedly, with a moment that what appears to be the factoring out there is something other than you. Now, the idea that you have already entertained within the, what we call the philosophy or religion of yourself, is the admission that you are aware of the idea of exchange within the sequence of what you think you are. That was a flash of light right there. Now it's gone. Now there's one right there. Now it's gone. Now watch with me. Here's the proceeding I'd like to have you use. Now we're down to 17 and a half minutes. I'm about to go into the meditative technique that I use in regard to a simple prayer that can be given to you, since you're constantly asking for something that you want within your own arrangement of yourself anyway. It's necessary that I make definitive examples of my certainty of the non-existence of the space that you appear to occupy. Now, you're very happily to admit to me that you come into a sequence, and I'm demonstrating it to you now. You live within this idea of being 126 years old, which is the latest statistic that you have given me. Now, you measure me from the beginning of the idea of the memories that you brought with you in this sequence, have projected into the future in order to gain a reference. Look with me. This mind training in improving the reflection of light is going to show you a time in which the instant conversion of the idea of, I'm going to use a word here, say to me mistake, in the idea that out in the universe there was a corrective procedure of a mistake that ensued in the idea. This is called the black hole, or the darkness of you, or the moment, say to me, Big Bang.
Big Bang.
Yeah, or the moment of the collapse of energy that brought this about. And well, you like to entertain the idea of the faculty as you examine it, the idea that the actual faculty of it are the necessity for your own admission of the cosmological recognition that the hologram of light in which you are witnessing is nothing, say to me, reality.
Reality.
It's nothing but reality, yes. This little book, now we're down to 14 minutes, is going to describe that to you. Okay, here I came in, I'm sitting down with you, you've gathered around me, we have our little books. We're going to commence with this, aren't we? Shall we commence with it? This little book? Huh? Let's look together at what it says. Shall we do that? I have this in my possession, don't I? I have in my possession, when I came in here, the idea that pi is going to be an extra ingredient that no matter how I divide it up, by the time I was 7 years old in the fraction of the idea of energy, I knew I was dealing with 22 sevenths. And that when I tried to divide 7 into 22, I ended up with 21, with an extra dangle particle of an idea of myself that no matter how I enforced it within the idea, I ended up with this little book. With this little book. Will you listen with me? Now, the class that you've come into is a continuation of the success that you have manifest in being in this cycle of time and leaving, because it's impossible in the requirement of the mind training that you are not successful in the notation that the action of your mind in coming from a specific location without any regard to what the location was except the conversion thereof, the action of conversion is what you have learned in your journey out into the universe. Listen with me. Good. I am responsible for what I say. I'm choosing the results that I want. And everything that's happening to me are decisions that I have made. This little booklet says that nothing I see out there means anything. Listen. Okay. Are you carrying your little book around with you so that you catch glimpses of the universe that then somehow are reduced in the idea of the necessity to define them within the fabric of your beingness? That's why they call you a human being, a Homo sapien, an idea that since you don't recognize who you are in a correspondent, you need to train your mind to continuing alternatives of what you see, of what you see, of what you saw, of what you see, of what you plan to see later on, that you already saw as you collapse into this situation. Listen. This, the workbook of A Course in Miracles. Here is invaluable assistance for those who are genuinely determined to discover the whole new reality of life that is the eternal love of God. These are the reviews of the first 50 lessons of A Course in Miracles in a repetition of training your mind systematically. Now, the workbook of the Course recommends that you practice 5 lessons a day for the 10-day period. Or it is very possible for you to consider at any time a study reviewing the entire first 50 lessons. We want to say to you, and here's what I'm telling you, welcome home. Did you hear what I said? I said, welcome home. The idea that you are successful in application within the logistics of your own mind, in the redefinition. Remember, wasn't there just recently a motion picture about the rabbit hole? And what was that called?
Down the rabbit hole.
Say it again.
Down the rabbit hole.
It's down the rabbit hole. It's a scientific adventure of the idea that the dark matter that it's necessary for you to momentarily descend into may at that moment be very fearful to you. But the recognition that it is fearful will also offer you the relief if there's a continuing idea that you're responsible for it within the relationship with yourself. Listen with me. This is a proven direct method of restoring communication with the creative source of all that is or ever can or will be. It's an invitation to an immediate contact with the singular power of the reality of eternal life that is all about you. Remember, you have never really been separate from this totality of all being. Remember, there is not, nor has there ever been, anything whatsoever for you to fear. Stand by. Here come the first 5 lessons, and they're loaded with all of the denial that you intend to manifest, and that the request being made on this motion picture is to entertain not the idea of your perfection, but the idea of the mere possibility within the relationship of reflected light. Here we go, that you have gained in order. Do you have your little book with you? Huh?
Yes.
Let's look at it together and listen together. Nothing I see means anything. The reason that this is so is that I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. It is necessary that I recognize this, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of vision. I must let it go by realizing it. It has no meaning, so that vision may take its place. Because I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. I have judged everything I look upon, and it is this and only this that I see. This is not vision. It is merely an illusion of reality because my judgment has been made quite apart from reality. I am willing to recognize the lack of validity in my judgment because I want to see. And my judgment has hurt me in the reflection of my own light, and I do not want to see according to them. And the reason I don't want to see according to them is each time I reach an understanding, now I'm on the whole idea of this book, I immediately question what it is that I'm trying to see in my relationship with myself. Now, we're going to continue with this mind training. Listen with me. I do not understand anything that I see. How could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand what I see because it's not understandable. Now, there's no sense in trying to understand it, but there is every reason to let it go and make room for what can be seen and understood and loved. I can exchange what I see now for this merely by being willing to do so. Is not this a better choice than the one that I have made? Why? The thoughts that I'm having do not mean anything. The thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything because I'm trying to think without using the power of the single reality of God. What I call my thoughts are not my real thoughts. My real thoughts are the thoughts that I think with God. I am not aware of them because I have made my thoughts to take their place. I am willing to recognize that my thoughts do not mean anything and to let them go. I choose to have them be replaced by what they were intended to replace. Why? My thoughts are meaningless, but all creation lies in the thoughts that I think with God. And there I am. There I am in the certainty that the reflection in the glimpse that I caught was the single reality of the universe in connection with the ideas that were going to proceed to the first 7 work days, although it would be from the beginning of time, with the direct determination that time itself is relative to association of cause and effect in what I am seeing within my relationship. Nothing I see means anything. I've given it all the meaning that has. What I see is a reflection of my light. The idea that this is coming to me in a statement from outside of this frame is where its value lies. Where its value lies. Where its value in the idea of the approach of the energy of love that I'm feeling for you right now lies. Listen to me about this little booklet. I am upset about it. I'm never upset for the reasons that I think. The reason I'm not upset for the reason I think, because I'm constantly trying to justify my thoughts. I'm constantly trying to make them true. I make all things my enemies so that my anger is justified and my attacks are warranted. I have not realized how much I have misused everything I see by assigning this role to it. I have done this to defend a thought system that has hurt me and that I no longer want. I am willing within my mind and the power of my mind to let it go. Here's why. I'm upset because I see what is not actually there. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I am upset, it's always because I have replaced reality with illusions that I make up. The illusions are upsetting because I have given them reality and thus regard reality as an illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by my confusion. I am always upset by nothing. You listening? I see only the past. Say it to me.
I see only the past.
As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon. I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemy. When I have forgiven myself and remembered who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. And there will be no past, and therefore no enemies. And I will look with love on all that I failed to see before. Now, here we are in the excitement that we've all just come from seeing the scientific proof of the idea of the conversion of love, of how I'm feeling about myself, versus the intense fear that I have in regard to what I am. The notation on the video that you saw, that the variation in the energy by which you identify your space and the identity of yourself in the space, are we ready for a little science? Are actually simultaneous. You love the idea that there's a variation in how you are viewing yourself in the objective realization of your mind. All I can tell you is that any reasonable mind will be certain of a single source of reality that awaits you out in this universe where there's billions of galaxies and stars, and they don't have to do with the pitiful little reflection of light by which you have maintained the fear of simply, are you ready? Come on in. Did that work? Oh, yeah. Did you bring your little butt? Now, everyone all around you say, what is this guy doing? This guy tells me that everything I see is always over. He says no matter how I look at it, the reason that I am here is because I'm seeing what is already over. And I'm going to be right back with you, because what I am seeing is already over. My recognition that it's over has allowed me to return into this framework of time without trying to construct an objective idea, with the certainty that the cause and effect of me are going on right here and right now. Right here and right now. That's the light. That's the light.
And now the purple dusk of twilight time steals across the meadows of my heart. High up in the sky, the little stars climb, always reminding me that we're apart. You wander down the lane and far away, leaving me a song that will not die. Love is now the stardust of yesterday, the music of the years gone by. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song. The melody haunts my reverie, and I am once again with you when our love was new, and each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago. Now my consolation is in the stardust of a song beside the garden wall. When stars are bright, you are in my arms. The nightingale tells his fairy tale, a paradise where roses bloom. Though I dream in vain, in my heart it will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain.
Here's the idea that no matter what I do, I'm always going to end up trapped within this idea of time, the worst of all possible universes. Among all the scenarios for an eternally expanding universe, the one dominated by so-called cosmological constant is the bleakest. Not only is it unambiguous that life cannot survive eternally in such a universe, but the quality of life will quickly deteriorate as well. So if recent observations that the expansion is accelerating are borne out, and we can look to see, humankind could be faced with a grim future because there's no way in which he can finally get back to recognize himself. Cosmic expansion carries objects away from one another unless they are bound together by gravity or another force. In our case, the Milky Way is part of a larger cluster of galaxies. About 10 million light years across, this cluster remains a cohesive whole, whereby galaxies beyond it are whisked away as intergalactic space expands. The relative velocity of these distant galaxies is proportional to their distance. Beyond a certain distance, called the horizon, the velocity exceeds the speed of light, which is allowed in the general theory of relativity, because the velocity is imparted by the expansion of space itself, not by how I observe it. Listen with me. If the universe has a cosmological constant with a positive value, as the observation suggests, the expansion is accelerating. Galaxies are beginning to move apart even more rapidly. Their velocity is still proportionate to their distance, but the constant of proportionality remains constant rather than decreasing with time, as it does if the universe decelerates, which is really what I'm teaching. Consequently, galaxies that are beyond a horizon will forever remain out of sight. Even the galaxies we can currently see, except for those in the local clusters, will eventually obtain the speed of light and vanish from view. Listen, the disappearance of distant galaxies will be gradual. Their light will stretch out until it becomes undetectable. Over time, the amount of matter we can see will decrease, and the number of worlds our starships can reach will diminish. Within 2 trillion years, well before the last stars in the universe die, all objects outside our own cluster of galaxies will no longer be observable or accessible. There will be no new worlds to conquer. Literally, we will truly be alone in all the universe, which is actually the case that I intend to present with you, as was presented in the idea of the moment in which you went deep into the dark hole. And I'm back with you. And the reason I'm back with you is that the space-time that we're now occupying together in the emotional evaluation of ourselves, we have lost and are losing each moment. Say to me, fear. The idea that I must continue to expand and search for something new, when the singular power of reality, in regard to the power of the location in which I find myself, will actually let me see at any single moment that the utilization of the power by which I have occupied my idea of body identity, I very simply would have held me in the idea that I am this hologram of reflection of my own light. Now, I'm teaching for just a moment here, because if we saw in the object of the movie that we saw, I become accustomed in my mind to getting reflections of what I think I see out there. This is my entire teaching. I'm going to use this little book, with your permission, to practice ideas of solution. Yes, I see myself there. Now, I notice that you're looking at yourself in a reflection of light. This carries with us, if you saw this motion picture, a responsibility to recognize it's not so much what you are seeing in your objective association, but the manner in which you are observing it within the ratio of perspective of the necessity to recognize within your own mind the singularity of the power that I am offering you in my own illumination of mind, where we know together that our attempts to separate ourselves from each other, while they may result in ideas where we momentarily overcome fear, will always represent our determination. Say to me, location. To locate ourselves in single thoughts of mind, without the admission that in the practice of the mind training, I have been successful at re-identifying through prayer. Father, I see that I need the help of you that is outside of this fear, and I'm asking for that help right now from you on the 8th day. Listen. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I am actually giving up nothing, because I am seeing nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I actually see nothing. I can see only what is now in this reflection. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely whether to see right now or not at all. What I have chosen to see has cost me vision. Now, I would choose again that I may see. And the manner in which I intend to do it are to let my thoughts be the decision I'm making, not what just a moment ago I saw out there. I'm going to change my mind about allowing this world to tell me as much as I love it and am in sympathy with the entrapment that has been imposed on me in the curriculum of the idea of my necessity to recognize myself in a specific location. The science evidence that I am presented with are showing me distinct evidence that the particle and wave that I'm seeing out there is being changed by my mind in my observation, no matter how far or long ago it may be present. Listen. My thoughts don't mean anything. I have no private thoughts. Yet it is only private thoughts of which I am aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts within the idea of my own mind? My meaningless thoughts are obviously showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning either. What is producing this world is insane. It's crazy. And so is what it produces. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing, and I'm upset because I constantly verify it in my own mind, only to be disappointed because you don't love me anymore in the idea that I have found something objective to love, and I'm upset because I'm seeing a meaningless world. Listen. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world, and I'm grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it, and I'm not going to anymore, and I do not choose to value what is totally crazy and has no meaning, because the meaninglessness of me is why I am afraid. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable and offers no grounds for trust. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope. But such a world is not real. I have given it the illusions of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now, I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. In choosing this, I will escape all the effects of the world of fear because I am acknowledging that in fact this world does not exist. Yes, I'm here with you. It seems reasonable in my mind that I'm getting flashes in my mind of ideas that God himself, if there is such a thing as reality, would be the totality of what I would be in that relationship with my mind. And to that effect, the creative reality of me is the love that I'm feeling now about my discovery of the self-responsibility that I have heretofore used to do everything I could to protect myself in the love of temporal organization of time. Now practice. Say to me, death.
Death.
The idea that I'm going to come, I'm going to occupy a situation, and I'm going to love the idea that I'm going to die in order to escape out into the universe, are you going to listen with me? Could not possibly make any sense. Because the idea that you can neutralize in your mind the fact that all of the energy of the universe is actually yours as you were created by God and cannot be separated except by the continuing extension of your act of giving it away, will you realize the value that's in this little book, in that light that you just saw. Was that a real light? Yeah. Did you lose your fear for a moment? Sure. Did your fear come back? Oh, sure. Do you realize what's going to happen in the final shortening of time in the idea of the movie motion picture that you just saw? No matter how far you've gone out in the universe, you've ended up right back here. What you've decided to do is, while there may be an application of the value in the location in which you find yourself in a single moment of time, a single moment of time always cannot not imply the idea of a space or a distance between you that will be what fear is. I lost my fear. Why? I relaxed and it began to attack me. So I quickly set up a defense mechanism. only to surprise that the guy that I actually hated out there was undergoing the same experience that I'm undergoing. You listen with me, I'm speaking from very deep experience in the idea, as we have learned through Master Jesus, that the enemy, the guy that I hate out there, the guy that I'm protecting myself from, is actually only in my own mind. And that when I protect myself, I'm getting a reflection of the pain and death and or love and gratification that I feel with you. Thank you for that. That's a better reflection of light. Look, I keep catching little glimpses of light that are flashing around you. Now, the idea that objective associations around you cannot see this light should not concern you. The responsibility for the totality of light is not in regard to any dark elements of concept about yourself, but only the action of the conversion of them. The action of the conversion. Listen with me, listen. God did not create a world of fear. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that is real is already in his mind. It is in my mind too, because he created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts when the perfection of creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide, where I really am, because the thoughts that I'm seeing in the place that I'm in and what I call home are images that I have made. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death show me that I'm seeing only the representation of my own insane thoughts, and am not allowing my real thoughts to cast their beneficent light on what I see. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is the will of God, and I will place no other gods before him, because the idea that I can be neutral rather than having to use the power of God or the power of space-time is not possible. I will be one or the other. Neutral thoughts are impossible, because all thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one. But thoughts cannot be without effects. As the world I see arises from my thinking error, so will the real world arise before my eyes as I let my errors of self be corrected. My thoughts can be neither true nor false. They must be one or the other. What I see shows me which they are. I'm with you just for a moment, because I can see a reflection of light in the little book that you're reading with me that lets me see that while I see you as a body out there identifying this, the single thought that we are sharing about a whole universe that's out there is actually a correction of the error that somehow we were located within the distance of space-time, in the galactic idea that the use of our energy formulation was an idea of a space-time location in which I identified you as along with me in a space-time location that indicated a distance between the single reality of what everything is and the totality of the idea that I may remain separate if I choose to, and use the power of my thought, of ideas I have about myself, in order to verify the thoughts that I'm having about myself. Can you see this with me? So I practice just for a moment, 2 minutes with you. Say to me, guilty.
Guilty.
Yes. You are guilty and I'm going to use the word judgment here, of judging yourself in a separate relationship with the idea of what everything is in all of the universe and what you think you are, as being guilty of the idea of separation, which may give you a great feeling of joy. But all it can possibly prove is the idea that your existence actually, if you look at it within reason, must be before you came into this cycle and after you left. In this little book, listen with me. That's better. Can you see who's standing next to you there? Some of us, in the idea of watching this other movie that we watched, suddenly discover that there's somebody who has come into this frame from a different cycle of time. We catch glimpses of him if we're not afraid of him. That is, if we're feeling love in our heart for something other than the situation in which we find ourselves in our reflection, we're able to ask him to come to dinner, to abide with us in the idea of that possibility that the reflection of light that I'm feeling for you right now, that while it's contained in my own mind, is also contained in your mind, so that the action of the idea of sharing will bring us around in the totality of us to this realization. 3 more lessons. Listen. I see no neutral things. What I see witnesses to what I think. If I did not think, I would not exist, because life is thought. Let me look on the world I see as a representation of my own state of mind. I know that my state of mind can change, and so I also know that the world I see can change as well, because I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing, because it's being projected by my light. If I have no private thoughts, I cannot see a private world. Even the mad idea of separation has to be shared before it could form the basis of the world I see. Yet this sharing was a sharing of nothing. I can also call upon my real thoughts, which share everything with everyone. As my thoughts of separation call to the separation thoughts of others, so my real thoughts awaken the real thoughts in them, and the world my real thoughts show me will dawn on their sight as well as on mine. Here, this is going to be the end of this cycle of time. Now, how much time has actually passed? Shall I tell you? More than 1,000 years. You have a tendency to measure things relative to the length of time in which you're determined to observe yourself within a cycle. The increasing frequencies of the ideas of light that I am offering you will allow you, if you let them with me, say to me, to set up a different place.
To set up a different place.
I can actually, remember we saw that movie together, set up a place for you where the thoughts of your mind are a meeting place where you come together to increase the frequency of determining a more rapid conversion of the outcome in which you thought you were going to have to continue to go out, even though you had memories in your mind of finally within what we call, let's use the term 40,000 years. In the little 40,000 year cycle of the consciousness of myself, I am aware that the activity of my mind, right here, in the thoughts that I'm having about you, in the technique of the reflection of the vehicle of light that is taking this picture, I am going to include it in from outside of this frame so that the light from the camera that I'm using in a new direction of the cause and effect relationship will actually cause a dimensional conversion of the idea of where you're finding yourself. If it is true that the change is going on all the time, that is, I don't have to continue in a particular direction. I can decide that I want to release the defense, and I can watch it expand the way it's expanding right now, in the passion of the joy that I am feeling, in the determination that this little idea of Homo sapien, trapped in the idea of his containment, is actually expanding very rapidly, so that the molecular idea of the reflections of light that he intends to use will be reflections beginning with the galactic idea of the brightness, with billions of other galaxies that allow me at any moment to simply recognize the truth of the power of love that I am feeling in, say to me, self-recognition.
Self-recognition.
In the simple recognition that I have already recognized myself, but that the manner in which I had fearfully been determined to hold myself objectively in the idea of space-time, I have allowed to collapse in on me, and I can expand out into the universe with you, out into the universe with you, out into the universe with you, with you, with you. How very bright you are.